cameras and the lenses that I currently own all in front of you right now. 12 items total. I'm including the 2 that are up here. This is the Sony a6700 and the 11mm f1.8 prime. I love that combination. I use it a lot for running gun style coverage or if I'm following somebody on a shoot. I'm typically on this camera now and I like it a lot. Now let's move into my wedding day kit. And you might be surprised to learn that my wedding kit doesn't even include over 50% of the items here. Let's go through it. Sony a7R Mark V as a main camera if I'm doing photography only, or as a secondary camera if I'm doing photo and video. I find the buffer is just not as fast as the Sony a7 IV, which is my hybrid camera of choice. On this camera over here, I have the 20mm f1.8G prime. I typically, if I'm doing a talking head like this, typically this is the lens and the camera that you'll see up there, but today it's in the shot. It's also on my second camera body, this 20mm lens, pretty much all wedding day, and it's typically in my bag. And the 20 is just that lens in case things get a little bit too wide. Moving over to the Sony a7 IV, I have the 85mm f1.8 on here right now. I will use this lens the most over the reception when environments just get low light. This is typically what I change to, and I have my C2 button on both my cameras set up into APS-C crop mode, so I can quickly punch into APS-C crop if ever needed. Next up, the Sony 35mm f1.4 GM. This is the lens that I'll start most wedding days on when I'm arriving, getting ready. This is a lens that will be kind of my main lens. Until given a reason to not use it, I used to have the 51.4. I did like it a lot, but I found that I've done, I'm gonna say 10 weddings in a row where I just didn't bring it. It's just an additional thing to have in my bag. It's heavy, it's expensive. And so I put it on consignment and it's for sale right now at BJ Photo in Waterloo if you want it. And then I have one more piece for my wedding kit, and it is a Tamron 35 to 150 f2 to f2.8. The Samyang version is also quite good. I have the Tamron one because that's the first one that I bought. That has replaced my 70 to 200. I used to have one of those, no longer. And I never had a 24 to 70, but that would also replace it as well. That is my go-to lens for ceremonies. That's it, that's the wedding kit. These things, off to shoot the wedding. 4 lenses, 2 cameras, that's it. Also, important mention here is that the members website is going up in price as of the end of this month. So as of October 1st, it will be $399 rather than the current rate, which is a lot less. So get in there if you're interested. You get access to all my courses, all my presets. I think $4,500 worth of content instantly as soon as you sign up. And until the end of the month, you can also do the monthly membership. So that just disappears. So you're not able to do a monthly after October 1st. But if you do sign up before then, you're welcome to keep that for as long as you want. But the annual is obviously a much better deal. Now, onto the stuff that I barely even put up here on YouTube. This is a Leica M6. It is the 0.58 version of the viewfinder, so you get different rangefinders. The standard one is what I have over here on my Leica M7. The slightly wider one is just nicer if you're shooting something like maybe this 28mm lens, or even something like this 35. This is a camera that I guess I haven't even used it on the channel at all. I've owned it for 2 or 3 years at this point. I've used the silver one. I sold the silver one when I realized that I just wasn't using both of them enough. So I figured the silver one should go to another home. And I've retained the M6 with a slightly wider rangefinder. Up here, a made in Canada 35mm f2 Summicron. Big fan of that. And then over here, I have the M7. The difference, at least for me, and the reason that I actually use my M7 more than my M6 is because the M7 has an automatic mode. You can't see it, but it's up there. Auto exposure, you just set your aperture to something that's reasonable for the scene and it will pick shutter speed for you. I like that a lot. The difference is that I will pretty much always be shooting that until I'm in a weird lighting situation. I'll pretty much always be on automatic exposure mode with that. Whereas the M6, you're forced to be in manual mode all the time. So it's a different experience overall. I find myself gravitating towards the M7 a heck of a lot more. Next up, the Nikon FM3A. And I'm a big fan of this camera. This is usually the one that's in the additional slot in my bag on a wedding day. And if it's not, it is this CONTAX T3. This CONTAX T3, amazing camera when it works, but I've had a few issues with it. It doesn't really spool film as well as it should. It's one of the older ones. It's only one of the teeth to pick up the film. And I sent it off for repair. I think it's been off to repair 3 times. Not one that I can really trust all the time. So wedding day, probably gonna bring something like this rather than the T3. Back here, the last camera that I've talked to you about. This is the Canon PowerShot G7X Mark II. Look at that. Wow. And this is usually the camera that I have for just going out and traveling, having a nice time. Brought this to Mexico last winter and really enjoyed the experience. I have since sold my Fujifilm X100V, and Magic is now the proud owner of my RX1R Mark II for Sony, which I think is one of the best cameras ever made, but Magic absolutely loves it, passionate man about that camera, whereas myself, I found myself barely using it, just like the X100V. You'll also notice a lack of the Leica Q3, as well as the Q2 Ghost. The Ghost was for sale. I traded the Ghost in for the Q3, used the Q3 for a few months, but just again, found myself using this M7 a heck of a lot more than the Q3. I know they're different tools, but for at least myself, that my wedding kit is my professional kit, or the A6700 that I'm making YouTube content with. And then for fun and for my own personal enjoyment, that was kind of the Q3 for me, but I just enjoy the M7 experience a little bit more. I also got an offer for it that was the same as I paid for it. So I basically got to rent the camera for free for a couple of months, and now it's back out in the world with an owner that uses it a little bit more than I would be. And then there is one other camera, but it's on loan right now. It's the one that I actually brought to Gerald Undone. We did a video, you can find it up here. And it is the Leica M4-2. And that camera works 50%. So you don't get some of the shutter speeds, but you get approximately some of the other ones, and it's a lot of fun to use. No light meter or anything in it, and it looks beat to heck. If you're interested in getting in on the members website, get access to that hybrid wedding photo video course, as well as Book More Weddings 2023, advanced wedding photography, all my presets, everything that I have to offer. It is available to the end of this month, and also every day in September, there's been a new video going up. So there's a September videos tab, and every Monday to Friday, all September long, new video has been going up. So join me over there if you're interested